Hi, welcome. This is Pablo Urcid with Cisco's Worldwide Data Center Networking team. In this new video series, we will integrate an existing ACI fabric with Cisco's Nexus Dashboard Insights platform. For this practice, we assume Nexus Dashboard Insights was already installed. Are you ready? The series will be divided in two parts. First, we will prep the ACI fabric with the prerequisites in order to fulfill the integration. The second part is the integration connecting and enabling flows. Let's get to it. Let's prepare the fabric. To move forward, we have to configure three easy steps. NTP and PTP policies, monitoring mode of the fabric, for this case, telemetry, and finally, the L3 out that will grant connectivity to the embed management of the fabric. Embed management is the supported mode in Nexus Dashboard Insights 3.1 to utilize flow telemetry from ACI. In this exercise, we are running version 3.1.1k for Nexus Dashboard. And remember, from this version and beyond, Nexus will be single image for services as well. On the APIC, we are running version 5.32b. But remember, Nexus Dashboard Insights is reverse compatible up to version 4.27v. For more information, check the compatibility guide at Cisco. To begin, let's log into APIC and click on the top Fabric tab. Ensure Fabric Policies is selected below the tab. Then open the Policies folder on the left. Then open Pod folder and Date and Time folder. Click over the Policy Default. On NTP Server section, click on the right-hand side plus sign to add the configuration. Once that is done, a pop-up will jump. On the first field, type the URL or IP of your NTP server. Enable the preferred checkbox, then choose the Management EPG. This is just to configure the fabric to use out-of-band management or in-band management to reach the NTP. Remember, every spine, leaf, and APIC should have the out-of-band management address configured and port physically connected so it reaches the NTP server. Click Submit, and as a final step, let's apply the NTP policy to the pod. On the left menu, let's navigate at the very top to Pods, then Policy Groups, and Default Policy. From the options in the center panel, let's select from the Date and Time Policy section the default policy and click Submit. Click on Yes and then Submit Changes. The NTP policy has been applied. Let's shift gears and enable PTP on APIC controller. Click on System on the top menu. Click on System Settings menu in the top bar. Now, in the left menu, click on PTP and Latency Management. In the center panel, on Precision Time Protocol section, ensure Enabled is selected. At the bottom, click on Submit. Now, PTP is working in the fabric. On the Fabric tab, click on Fabric Policies. On the left menu, open the Policies folder, then open the Monitoring section. Open Fabric Node Controls folder and select Default. Enable DOM by clicking on the checkbox and make sure telemetry priority is chosen, since we will use in this case hardware telemetry. Click at the bottom Submit and then Submit Changes. Telemetry has been activated. Moving forward, we have to configure a L3 out on ACI that would allow connectivity from the fabric to the data network interfaces of the cluster, allowing connectivity to the in-band IPs. This is required to get telemetry into the Nexus Dashboard Insights cluster. Let's proceed to this final step by logging into ACI user interface. Before we start with the L3 out configuration, let's review something important for the in-band config. As you see on screen, for this use case, we will have to configure two domains, one for the in-band construct and another one for the L3 out. If you already have an L3 out configured, you will only have to configure the domain for in-band. Both domains are necessary to achieve reachability to the in-band management. For this video, we already configured the L3 out domain, but let's review both domains' particularities. First, VLAN endcap has to be different in both domains because the in-band EPG requires a VLAN from its specific pool. Also, the domain type is proprietary to its use case. Attached entity profiles and interface group policies are configured business as usual. Now, on the interface profile, we must configure the interface selector to use the interfaces on the leaf or leaves that connect to the APIC or L3 out edge router. In this case, we will focus on the in-band domain as seen on the picture on the left, In this video, we will only connect one port and one leaf. Finally, we have to run the standard configuration for the switch profile, in where we match the leaf to the interface profile. Let's begin configuring ACI. To begin the domain configuration for Embark, let's click on the top bar Fabric, then on Access Policies. The first thing we'll do is create the VLAN pool with the NCAP VLAN. Let's navigate on the left menu to Pools folder, then open the VLAN config and right-click to create the VLAN pool. Set a name for the pool, ensure static allocation is selected, and click on the plus sign in the NCAP blocks section. Once the wizard pops up, set the VLAN number you would utilize for the connectivity between the leaves and apex. Click OK, then Submit. Now we configure a physical domain that will be in charge of managing the Embark policies. Next, we open the Physical and External Domains folder on the left menu, and under Physical Domains, we right-click to create the object. On the view that pops, enter a name for the domain, and from the VLAN pool dropdown, select the pool created in the step before. Then we create an attached entity profile that we will use further in the configuration. In this view, let's set a name for the attached entity profile and click Next button on the bottom. We will not associate anything at this moment, so let's just click on Finish button, then Submit button to finalize the config. Moving forward, let's click on the left menu over Interfaces folder, then Policy Groups, and over Leave Access Port. Right-click over Leave Access Port to create the policy. In this view, set a name, then select the attached entity profile created in steps before. If you want, you can enable CDP and NLDP from its respective dropdowns, then click Submit. One folder up, we click over Profiles, which is under Interfaces. Now, this is where we select the ports that are connected from the leaves to the APIC fabric ports. Please add all the interface IDs that you have connected in your environment. Most common scenario is that you have connected two different leaves with a port each to the APIC controller. For this use case, I only have one leaf, one port connected to the APIC. Right-click over Profiles to create a leaf interface profile. In this view, set a name and then click over the plus sign in the Interface Selectors section. In this new menu, set a name for the interface selector. Then, on the Interface IDs field, type the port ID or IDs that are connected to APIC. Finally, select the interface policy group created in the step before. Then click OK and Submit. Now let's create a leaf profile to associate the interface or interfaces to its leaf or leaves. As we previously stated, we only have one port and one leaf connected to the APIC. Now that we have everything set in place, we will go to the management tenant and configure the Embark EPG. Before we start, we assume that you have IPs and connectivity set for out-of-band management EPG for every leaf, spine, and APIC. This is also necessary apart from the Embark management for Nexus Dashboard Insights to work properly. In the left menu on the management tenant, let's click on Node Management EPGs. Right-click and then select Create Embark Management EPG. Set a name for the EPG and then the VLAN ID we populated on the VLAN pool on earlier steps. Select the Embark bridge domain, which is configured out of the box. You do not need to create this object. Then click on Submit. Once this step is completed, let's set the IPs for Embark management. Under Node Management Address, we click on Static Node Management Addresses. Then, on the far right, config icon. Once the view opens, we set the number ID of the leaf, spine, or APIC. Then, check the Embark address option. From the drop-down, select the Embark Management EPG created in the previous step. Set the desired IP address and gateway. Then, click Submit and repeat this step for all your nodes. Once you finish, you can validate the result on the panel. Now, in this step, we will configure the routing mechanism. We will use static routing, but OSPF, BGP, or EIGRP are supported. We will not go into detail on how to configure the L3 out. For more detail about this topic, you can visit the video on the QR code. Just remember to utilize the Embark Verve, which is available out of the box. With this configuration in place is how we will have reachability to the Embark IPs we configured. In our case, subnet 192.168.22.0/24. Let's continue configuring a node ID, router ID, and the interface that will connect to the edge router and the IP address to create the adjacency. Once these steps are completed, click on the next button to configure the external EPG. For this config, we will only populate the name field. Then click on Finish. Since we are running static routing, we have to add the next hop. This may not apply to your configuration. We have to add the prefix and router IP with connectivity to those networks. Once this step is concluded, we will configure a contract that would allow connectivity from the L3 external EPG to the in-band EPG. Let's only populate the name and click Submit. Now, let's assign the contract to the in-band EPG and L3 out EPG. For both EPGs, the contract will be assigned as a consumer and provider. First, we will perform this task in the in-band EPG and continue with the L3 out as shown on screen. Once this step is done, we'll be on our way to finish the configuration and achieve reachability from the data interfaces of the Nexus dashboard to the in-band IPs. Before we are able to test the communication and continue to our next phase, we will have to set a gateway IP for the in-band bridge domain and make it routable. We assign the L3 out to the in-band bridge domain, and we are all set. Before connecting to Nexus Dashboard Insights, go to System tab on the top, then to System Settings, and on the left menu, click over APIC Connectivity Preferences to ensure in-band interface connection is the selected mode. If that is not the case, change the configuration and click Submit. Thank you very much for making it all the way to the end. On the next video, we will walk you through the configuration between Nexus Dashboard Insights and ACI. Please stay tuned for the next part. Bye.